As Messianic Judaism finds its footing as an independent expression of discipleship to Jesus, an ecosystem of congregations, publishers, teaching organizations, and ministries have all materialized to fulfill the various needs a burgeoning faith community tends to have. One of these niches is social media, and our guest today, known to us only by her username, Hello Mrs. Rachel, is a breakout Messianic Jewish content creator of the stay-at-home mom variety. We'll talk about growing up as a Messianic Jew, the challenges of passing the torch to the next generation, and the impact her success has had on her journey of faith. You're listening to Messiah Podcast, where Jesus is Jewish, and that changes everything. Messiah Podcast is a production of First Fruits of Zion. Create a free account at ffoz.org to start exploring the Jewish foundation of your faith and receive a free book from our store.
Let me introduce you to my teacher, the rabbi from the Galilee.
Well, she's a Messianic Jewish mother of three and breakout content creator. Welcome to the podcast. Hello, Mrs. Rachel.
Hi. Thanks for having me, Jacob. So happy to be here.
Oh, thanks for coming on. I think probably people will be watching for you rather than watching for me for this episode, since you've found some success out there on the social media platforms. I think that's so cool.
Thank you so much. And that is not true. I'm watching you, and there are other people too.
Well, before we get into the details of what you're doing now, every time we have a Messianic Jewish person on the podcast, we love to just hear their stories, because not every Jewish person believes in Jesus, and not all Jewish people who believe in Jesus retain their Jewish identity or identify with the term Messianic Jew. So we would just love to hear sort of what your faith journey has been like. How did you get to where you are?
Sure. I'm happy to share. I'm an open book. So I actually was born to two Messianic Jewish parents. They found their faith in Yeshua. My dad was in after college. My mom was from a babysitter, I think when she was like 8 years old, I believe. And so I am a third generation, if I'm saying that right, Messianic Jew, because my grandparents on both sides ended up professing faith in Yeshua as well later in their lives. So I grew up in a very unique family dynamic, very loving family. I have a younger brother. He's 5 years younger than me. And we grew up Messianic Jewish, where we celebrated all the Jewish holidays, the biblical feasts. I went to temple in South Florida. And I was on a dance team with my dad, actually, an Israeli folk Messianic dance team since I was 8 years old. So I worshiped at temple, and it was a fun time. It was just a very different upbringing, as you can imagine.
Yeah. No, it is. It is different. It's not the same thing as growing up in a traditional synagogue, and it's not the same thing as growing up in church. So were you self-aware as a child, like, oh, I'm something different from many of the other children I meet?
Yes. I had a great experience in elementary school being a Jew, a Messianic Jew, because I went to a Christian elementary school, and the Christians love Jews. So a
lot of us do.
A lot of us do. Now it's a little different. But back then, it was in early 2000s? It was a different time.
Yeah. We're supposed to. We're really supposed to. Exactly. I'm disappointed in a lot of the Christians right now, but we're really supposed to. I'm glad you had a good experience at your Christian school.
Yes, I really did. I was like the token Jew, and I was invited to all the Christmas gatherings, and I would bake cookies. I actually still have one of my best friends since first grade. She really took me in because I've loved Christmas my whole life. And I used to bake cookies with her and decorate her tree. And I would invite her over for Passover Seder. And so it was never like a really weird thing. It was really celebrated in elementary school. And my school went up to sixth grade. So I was there till sixth grade. And then, I found out this later, but it was very tight living where we were living financially. And my grandpa was actually the one that paid for my Christian school. And I didn't know that because, my parents didn't tell me. So later on, I did not continue with private school because of the 2008, whatever it was called, the crash. And he lost a lot of money. And this is all going in the background that I didn't know. So I had to go to public school. So I went from this like really sheltered, amazing Christian school. And then I went 7th grade because, you know, middle school usually starts in 6th grade. So I'm already coming in as a newbie. In 7th grade, it was basically like going to the wolves. I felt like it was just a whole different world. And that really continued until after high school. I went to public school in high school, and I didn't get bullied really. But I just definitely felt how different I was, just how worldly a lot of people were, and just did not have the same biblical worldview as I had. And so that was a lot to handle. Actually, when I was in high school, I sat alone at lunch a lot. I was a bit of a loner. I was really just coming into myself. I think, you know, we all have those awkward stages. But I could not find friends very easily. But I found these 2 girls at lunch, and I started sitting with them, and they were really nice. It was better than sitting alone. And one day they just asked me, I think they knew I was Jewish, or I talked about it before. And one day they just asked me, like, so your parents are probably like really rich, right? Because you're Jewish. And, you know, Jews love money. And I was just like taken back by this, because this is the first time that I've actually just encountered a light persecution, or just a light, like, you just don't understand what Jews are or who we are. And I just started sitting by myself at lunch again. So after my high school career, I was so happy that was over. But it really has grown me as a person just by being different. And all the time in class, everyone would ask me, like, so you're a Messianic Jew. So that means that, like, you're Jewish, but you're Christian. Like, you need to choose one. Like, you're just really confused. So I didn't really get bullied, but I just always was put up against, like, what I believe in and why. And, like, I had to defend it, and I wasn't good at defending it yet. I was only in 9th grade, 10th grade. So it really just allowed me to feel very isolated. But the silver lining was I had this great Messianic congregation temple, and it was just like my safe space, really, where I felt like I belonged.
That's great. Yeah. We're big fans of the Messianic Jewish congregational movement here. And that's part of the reason why, because these 2nd and 3rd generation little Jewish kids that are believers, yeah, they need that. They don't always need to be thrown to the wolves every day, 24/7. They need a place where it's like, oh, this is home. This is where there's people like me and people understand. That's important. That's important. We love it. Good. Yeah, 7th grade, man. 7th grade. 7th grade was the worst. I wasn't a Jewish kid thrown into public school, but I was a homeschooled kid that started private school in the 7th grade. And I was a disaster.
I don't think middle school is great for a lot of people.
You mentioned offline, and I think you mentioned to Hope in an interview that ended up being an article for Messiah Online, that you've done your social media posts and stuff about your faith, about your identity as a Messianic Jew, but you are looking now at doing more like family stuff. You're looking at because you have your husband, your kids, and you're trying to live out life as Messianic Jews, which means your kids would be 4th generation.
Crazy.
Being a kid in this movement is not always easy. What have you learned as you've become a parent, and now you're trying to pass the torch forward? What is that? What challenges have you met, and how have they grown you as a parent trying to parent Messianic Jewish children?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I was looking for a spouse, I felt like he was going to have to fall through the sky, because it was very hard to find a Messianic Jewish guy that I actually liked to be around. So I always just thought he was going to have to fall through the sky. But thankfully, I found him in a Messianic congregation in where I live. I don't want to give it away, but and we started a family. Now, you would think when you marry another Messianic Jew, and this is what I thought, that it's going to be kind of easy because you believe the same things. You're Jewish.
Yeah.
You celebrate the same holidays. So you're kind of starting on like the right foot, if you will.
The same page about everything, right?
Totally.
There was no disagreement.
Totally. I mean, I just thought it'd be easier than just marrying like, just a Christian. And so, quickly found out that is not the case. Two Messianic Jews still can mean, you're going to fight a lot. It's going to stretch you. And we definitely have experienced that. Growing up, I felt like the Jewish community was very small at that point. I didn't feel like I had a lot of resources to go off of, a lot of books to read about what to look for in a Messianic Jewish spouse. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I felt like on my own a lot of these times, just really kind of going through things and praying and asking the Lord to give me the right spouse. And I found David, and he's amazing. I love him so much. But we have been through the ringer. We're about to be on the 10th year of our marriage. We were on one of our dates. We already were engaged. We were in the McDonald's drive-thru, and we were eating a sandwich. And he asks me, by the way, I'm already engaged. I already said that, but I just want to say I'm already engaged to this man. And he says, so what do you think about Niddah? What are your thoughts on Niddah?
Yeah. And for those of you out there who don't know, Niddah or Niddah, these are the laws of family purity. If you want to know more about them, you can go look them up. I think you want to look at like Leviticus 15, has to do with monthly cycles and maybe things that are permissible and forbidden in relation to those monthly cycles. Don't want to get into a whole lot of detail because this is a family podcast, but it is in the Bible if you want to go check that out.
Yeah. Maybe I'll make a video about it another time.
Maybe you will.
Now, I grew up in a very Reformed Messianic Jewish family. I didn't say that, but it was very Reformed. We love the culture. We love worshiping the Lord, and we will fast sometimes on Yom Kippur, but sometimes we don't. Very relaxed family.
Yeah.
David found his Jewish roots later in life. So he was, I think, college age when he realized, wait a minute, my grandma is Jewish and my mom is Jewish. So what does that mean for me? So he went on a journey later in life. And so he asks me this, and I immediately think I need to break up with this man. What is Niddah? He explains it to me, and I'm like, that is the weirdest thing to ask me. Absolutely not. I am not for this. I just want to have like a nice, chill, relaxed Messianic Jewish path. Like, I don't want to have to be dealing with these big questions and big things to have to figure out. And why are you calling me unclean? So, I didn't know all this stuff yet. So, that was just a teaser of what it was going to look like getting married to a guy where I am a more Reformed Messianic Jew and he is more of a futuristic, traditional, wanting to really figure out the big questions guy. Now later, I now know that God put us together to balance each other out, but that was just how we started. And we would meet with couples a lot that were also, interfaith or Messianic Jewish, and they wouldn't be struggling with the same things that we were struggling with. And I'm like, you mean you're not fighting all the time? And, it's not fighting about who put the toilet paper on the wrong way. It's big, deep rabbit hole questions that I'm sure you're aware of and figuring all that stuff out. So that's just how our marriage has been. We have grown so much. We found a Messianic mentor that we prayed for, and God gave him to us. He's a Messianic rabbi, and he's been amazing for us. I wish I found him sooner. And so now we are just trying to figure out, how do we raise a healthy Messianic Jewish family? It's the most loaded question. And there are now resources like First Fruits of Zion and other resources to help with this. I kind of am learning as I go. And our kids go to a Mother's Day Out program. And that's twice a week at a Christian church. And so like yesterday, Like, this is just one of the things that we have to deal with. They had a Friendsgiving and the teacher was serving her ham. And I said, sorry, she can't have ham, but I'll pack her own lunch. So there's just certain things that I'm happy that I'm allowed, that I'm able to be in this church space, that I can help them learn about Messianic Jews. And, you know, I learn a lot from Christians too.
Yeah.
So
there's plenty of Christian stuff and plenty of Jewish stuff. I remember like trying to read both and being like, I'm gonna have to smash this all together in my head to come up with something that has has everything I want in there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember reading a book called To Kindle a Soul. I think it was recommended by a Breslover rabbi, and I was like, oh, Jewish child raising tips. Like, I want that. And then I've got obviously everything that I'm getting from Christian sources, and it is, you know, God willing, you know, to see the ecosystem of helpful ideas and books and so forth within the Messianic Jewish space, to see that ecosystem grow. And part of that ecosystem in this day and age, which I'm so thankful to be alive in, is social media, the social media ecosystem, which I am desperately trying to adapt as someone who turned 40 this year. Wow. The world seems to be changing so fast, but you seem to be on top of it because you are a content creator who has an audience, for some of your videos, hundreds of thousands of views. How did you do that? I guess this is my first question. I'm not asking for a friend. How do you become a highly successful social media mogul in the Messianic Jewish space?
Well, I'm happy to share any tips off camera if you want to know. But I grew up in middle school, I think, is when I started getting into, is that when YouTube came out? I think I was in middle school.
Wow.
I think so. And I was just drawn to this space. And back then, it was like I was into the beauty gurus. I wanted to learn all the makeup tutorials and the hair tutorials. And I was like so obsessed with this space. And I started filming videos and they were really cringe. But I started filming them and I had so much fun filming videos, and I got better at it every video, and I never stopped. So I just filmed videos. I didn't have that big of a following at all. And I would always make new channels for some reason. I didn't like the channel name, so I just made a new channel. So I have like,
nice.
I have like 5 or 6 channels just out in YouTube space that I don't know the passwords anymore. So they're just out there. Can't delete them. But I just grew up in this space, and I just love filming videos. And with my background and being a dancer, a little bit of a performer, I guess you could say, starting this journey, it really actually gave me an outlet in motherhood to start creating again. And I really liked the short form content because it was a lot easier to film, a lot quicker to edit, and just didn't seem that big of a commitment. It just felt like it was fun. I could just like film something and post it real quick. And I started with the stay-at-home mom niche, and I was getting 300 views. And I was like, I don't want 300 views. I would like more. I want more of a reach. And so I just really tried to like perfect the craft while I'm having children. And one day, it was Easter in April. And background, David has not wanted me to share about Messianic Judaism because of, persecution, aliyah stuff, about being a Messianic Jew with the Israeli government. Who knows what that's like? And my children and my husband are dual citizens of Israel. So they're already Israeli citizens. So I'm the only one left. And he just didn't want to mess that up of me getting citizenship one day. Well, God gave me a big mouth and I want to share. I like sharing. And I wanted to share this part of my life. And it started off as I am frustrated with how I don't belong. And to Jews, it's really important to feel like we belong. And I don't belong in this Christian space. I feel like they look at me like I have 5 heads. And then I definitely don't belong in the Jewish space. I just feel rejected in some aspect to another in both sides. So I wanted to share that tension on the internet on Easter. So I asked my husband if he would give me his blessing to start sharing this. And he's like, do you know what this means? And I was like, I mean, right now I'm only getting 300 views. So I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue. And he's like, okay, do you know what this means? Like this could definitely, no one's talking about this. I'm like, I know, I want to do it. So I do it. We go on date night and I'm still at 300 views. I post it and he gives me his blessing. I post it, move on, go to date night, come in the car after the restaurant. And I think it's at like 1,000 views. And I'm like, okay, it's getting better than it usually is. It's still not like where I want it to be. But that's better. Get home from parents babysitting the kids and it's going like I could just tell it's blowing up. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is cool. So I just ride that wave and I'm happy about it. I think that God gave me this gift of gab, of talking. And he also gave me the background that I have and the pain that I've been through from being in the Messianic Jewish movement. You deal with a lot of rejection, a lot of just being different. And it's just like, sometimes you're just like sick of feeling different. And so filming kind of gave me this like way to like vent and share my story. And I think, it first started out as like, I just want to get views and I want to make money for my family. And God has quickly made me realize that this is much bigger than that. Like this is people's like souls. And I have DMs all the time coming in of people, Jewish, Hasidic, non-Jew, asking me all these questions. And I'm like, I just wanted to make a couple bucks for my family. But God is making me realize that like there's a bigger opportunity here to share my story, share the pain that I've been through, the lessons I've learned to hopefully help others. And so that's what I want to keep doing.
That's good. You can't care about the numbers.
Exactly.
You can't care about the numbers. You have to have a purity of a vision of what you're trying to communicate and why.
Yeah, I think in the content creation space, it's very easy to focus on the numbers. And all the time when growing up, I've always read the verses in Colossians. I think it's 3 something. Like whatever you do, do it for the glory of God. And like when you're in this like spiritual faith space, but you're also trying to get reach, it could easily you could easily start to like mix things up in your head. And you're like, oh, I want to get like those views. And then there's something so superficial about numbers. And when you actually think about how I'm just doing what the gifts that God gave me to glorify him. And it's not about numbers. It's about my impact that I have. And if it's all about me, it's gross and it's vain. And that's not going to help anybody. And it's not going to grow me as a person. So I have to always remind myself of that because in that space, it's really, it could feel very self-serving. So
that's the general criticism of like social media influencers.
Exactly.
The challenge is to be ourselves here on the camera,
Mm-hmm.
and just to give the rest to the Lord. I think
Exactly.
Whoever sees it is whoever was meant to see it. But
Yes.
hey, if you're enjoying this conversation, take a moment to like, comment, subscribe, or share with a friend. It really helps us reach more people with the message of the Jewish Jesus and his coming kingdom. You can find more Messianic Jewish teaching and resources from First Fruits of Zion when you visit ffoz.org and create a free account. You talked about getting lots of DMs and stuff, and people are connecting with what you're saying. Are these people like, I'm like, certainly, obviously you're going to have people who are just like you, who are like, oh, thank you. Like, thank you for saying what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Are you getting also people who are like, gosh, I didn't know that there were people like you. Thanks for thanks for teaching me about this for the first time? Is there like, are people gaining a new perspective on their faith? Have you found from watching your stuff?
Yes. I think I would say most of my audience are Christians that are very interested in learning more, possibly doing the biblical feast as well. And it's almost like my hot take as a Messianic Jew kind of unlocked all of these questions from Christians, like, wait, Jesus was Jewish, so then what does that mean? And what's the remnant? And what's a Messianic Jew? And there's all these questions. And I don't think it's really taught in church that much. I've been in churches. It's not really taught. And so I'm getting a lot of DMs from Christians that are like, can you please talk about this verse? Or can you please talk about this theological argument? And can you please talk about what it's like, to be a mom? Like, how do you find friends? I'm having trouble. I am drawn to this world, but like my Messianic congregation is like 5 people. Like, how do you have friends? And how do you have community? So I'm getting a lot of questions from Christians. A lot of them are really interested in just the connections between the biblical feast and Yeshua and like how he did all these things and what that means for a Gentile believer. And it's been really, really cool. It's been a really cool time. And I've really been enjoying it. I get a lot of encouraging DMs. I also get a lot of Jews in my DMs that are Messianic, maybe hiding it from their community right now. Some are still trying to figure things out. They still have questions. And it's funny, when I started making my videos, I don't like to stay in the theological stuff very much, which is probably surprising since all my videos basically up to this point have been very theological. And the reason for that is because I got so many questions and I was like, I don't know what the answer to that. I'm going to research it and then I'm going to post my findings. And that's been actually really a big growth opportunity for me to actually figure out what I believe and why in different verses and what my thoughts are and the arguments for those thoughts. And so I've actually grown a lot as a Messianic Jew by posting and getting questions from others, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's I've heard that the best way to learn is to teach. So yeah, that's how fascinating that this particular thing became a catalyst for you to learn so much more about Messianic Judaism and theology. That's cool. That's cool. That feels like like as a parent, when your kid hits the math that you don't quite remember and you have to go back and learn it so you can help them.
Yes.
I have to learn this so I can teach it.
I do find that my faith that I stand on that keeps my faith, I don't know what you call it, strong, actually isn't the theological stuff that I could visit. But then I have to go and just like worship the Lord and like really be very basic and like read the word and just like worship. Like I can't stay in the theological space because I feel like I get stuck here and then it doesn't move to my heart. So I'm trying to like dissect this idea and then I've realized that even if I dissect it and I really prove all of the critics, wrong with like every right verse and stuff, I still don't feel convinced in my head. So it's like that Thomas prayer, like I think it's Thomas, I believe, help my unbelief, that verse. That is so how I feel because in my heart I believe, and if I focus too much about what's going on in my head, they don't connect. Like your faith has to come from your heart because no matter how many facts you get, how many verses that you dissect, it's never going to make you feel like you're never going to not have doubts. So you have to really rely on what's actually going on in your heart, how God has been there for you and done so many miracles in your life and things like that you have to stand on, because the facts are facts and they're great. And there's a lot of proof that Yeshua was there. He died. He rose again. There's eyewitnesses. But if you get too much in your head, it just is not, at least for me, it doesn't produce as much fruit in my spirit. I feel weary and like exhausted. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I've had to really offset the theological, like, okay, what I'm filming is this, and then I'm posting, and then I got to get out of this. And then I got to go to like what's actually gives me peace and joy. And it's not like that stuff doesn't give me peace and joy, but it's different. It's more of like fact checking and like, I don't know how to explain it. I just need to worship the Lord, and that's it.
Yeah. No, I recently interviewed Hope Egan, who's here on staff with us now, and she's I think the associate producer for this podcast.
Yes,
and she was talking about a similar idea in her life, how she was just like into this theology and proving things with Bible verses and making these arguments for and against these different things, and it just got to the point where I was like, oh, where is like this vital relationship with God that should be and is on some level so simple.
Yes.
But also really needs to be watered and nurtured like on a day-to-day basis. We need this time. We set aside time where we like remember to surrender. We remember the reason that we're doing all of this, and we like just bask in his presence and we worship, like you said, like that is all like, that's more important, right? Like that's where our life comes from. That is the wellspring. You know, that's the reason we started learning theology to begin with. That's what it's all about. And it has to. Yeah, we have to. I've also been in like a dry place where I knew a whole lot of facts, and God felt very distant.
Mm-hmm.
It's something, I think it's a trap a lot of people fall into. But it's good that you're sensing that and you're moving toward this, like, hey, I just want to spend more time with God. That is good. That is good. You gotta realize it while you're young. Don't waste any more years of your life. Don't waste any more years of your life on theology, is not what I'm saying.
No.
But and you mentioned that there's Gentiles watching, there's Jewish people watching. That's great. Are there people? Is anyone hate watching you? Do you have critics? Do you have people who are in your DMs saying there's no such thing as the Jews, or whatever, just bizarre things?
Yes, I have gotten it all in my DMs and comments. I have big fans, big. I call them my fans because
they never stop thinking about you.
Exactly. They're just obsessed with my content. But no, but I do get my fair share of hate comments. A lot of my friends tell me that they have to pray before they look at my comment section for wisdom, because it's a very scary place. I don't try to focus on it that much, because I know that God is leading me and I'm supposed to share this message. And the hate comments really oddly don't get me down at all. It could also be that it's my background in filming, and I just have been filming and posting content for so long that like, and also my background of just growing up the way I did, that a little hate, it's fine. It just really doesn't bother me. So, when I got into this space, this was after October 7th, but I've realized that what I'm talking about is almost like a David and Goliath scenario. Like, it's like there's these big mobs and very big people that have big followings that are spreading lies and misinformation and demonic lies about the Jews and about Israel. And I feel like I'm almost David in this space, because I am sharing this as a Messianic Jew, and there's not a lot of Messianic Jews posting content. And I'm hoping I could share the truth on what the word says. And I don't have as big of a following as these people that you probably know who I'm talking about. But regardless, I know God's using me. So that's all that matters to me.
Yeah. So because I do the first fruits of Zion reacts, and because the whole shtick there is that I don't watch the video in advance, I actually basically stay off of all video related social media, at least anything that's in or related to the space that we would have a reaction video in.
Mm-hmm.
However, I did see one of the responses to one of your videos. And what that means is that as of the time of this recording, I have recorded a react to that guy's react. And which one will come out first, I actually have no idea. The react will probably come out first because the turnaround on those is pretty quick. Mm-hmm. But if you're watching this interview on YouTube, dear viewer, you can go find that. Maybe we'll throw a link to that in the comments, because it was so disrespectful. When I do a react to people who are having, like the first one I did, it was like two philosophers having this deep discussion where they really seemed to respect each other's point of view. And I feel like I was able to approach them respectfully. This guy who responded to you, I think called you the R word, the R slur. So I didn't feel any need to be respectful toward that guy. So I had a lot of fun with that one. I'm glad that it's not getting to you. Yeah, I think there is something about people who grow up in the social media space in a way that I didn't, where it's just like, oh yeah, the haters are just like part of the furniture. Like we don't even really see them anymore. Like who cares? They're always there. They're there on every video, right? And everyone, it's just like the crickets outside. You don't hear them after a while. So that's good. I'm glad that it's not bothering you. What are some of the, like you said, these people are the people that are criticizing you are basically just wrong about stuff. What are some of the more common misconceptions that you see in the pushback that you're getting?
That's a good question. One of the biggest ones is the exact things that I got, when I was in middle school and high school. You're a Christian. You're a Christian now. And so a lot of my platform is really educating that I am a Jew that believes in Jesus and that still lives a Jewish lifestyle. And that is something that Jews, when they come to faith, they don't just like go and assimilate into a church. They grew up with these traditions. A lot of, even the secular Jews grew up with the biblical feasts, and, maybe they didn't think about it too much, and they would probably maybe party on the weekends, but they still were around all this culture and traditions. You don't just like give that up when you become a believer. And I actually would argue you shouldn't give this stuff up because Jesus did it. And his disciples were the first Messianic Jews. They were Jews that followed Jesus, and they went to temple. They prayed in the temple. They did all the stuff, all the biblical feasts. And I basically want to share that. So that's one of the biggest misconceptions that I get is you're a Christian.
Okay.
Yeah. And I get that from both sides. Jews also want to say that too. So yeah, it's an interesting space.
Yeah. I feel like Jews in these Christian circles that don't understand or even acknowledge Jewish identity as having any significance. Even it's funny in a sense, like, I don't know, not funny as in but funny as in kind of ironic, like philosophically ironic, that they would say, oh, Jewish identity is not important, it doesn't matter. But Jews, these same people will single out Jews. It's like, oh, they're Jews. You're the only ones really that has to give up everything about like your holidays and like your culture, like all the things, anything that would distinguish you as being a Jew, you have to give that all up. Whereas you got like J. Hudson Taylor, he goes to China, he dresses like a Chinese person. He's like, that's fine. You guys, he's trying to find an expression of faith that would resonate in that culture. Amy Carmichael, like these people who went deep into the mission field. But if it's Jews, it's like, oh no, all of that is like uniquely bad and wrong. You have to give it all up. There's no, can't be any Jewish stuff. And it's like, wow, it gives the lie to the idea that Jewish identity is not significant. It is significant, and they're like fighting it. And then here we are on the opposite end, saying, "No, keep all of it. Get more." Like we get so many. Jesus has brought many Jewish people like more into their Judaism and inspired them. You know, I've met people. I mean, I meet them years later, and they have big beards and like praying in Hebrew from the Siddur, and like it's like they got into Judaism in a way that they never were before because of their discipleship. And it's like, yeah,
yes, I completely agree. And you know, a lot of people just want to just like throw out the Old Testament, and like God said what Jews are supposed to do. And he didn't take that away. Jesus did this stuff.
Yeah.
So like if the Old Testament just doesn't matter anymore, then how can you believe the whole Bible? How does God not break his promises to you if he breaks them to the Jews? So
yeah,
the fact that there are Messianic Jews in this movement that are Jews that follow Jesus, just like the disciples did, and that still keep their Jewish identity is almost like a testimony to God's faithfulness that he has kept us a people. And if he told us like, oh, now Yeshua came, so, you know, start eating ham and celebrate Christmas and things like that. And I love Christmas, but,
me too.
Then how would we know that, you know, the Bible's true and God's promises last forever? Like the fact that he's kept these promises to us means that he's going to keep them to you, to the Gentile believer. So I don't know why that's not good news to a lot of people. Like that's really good news.
Yeah. It's one of the only like truly falsifiable proofs for God's existence. Because he says in Jeremiah 31, if the nation of Israel ever stops being a nation before my face, or like existing as an identifiable people, she's basically saying, then I guess I don't exist. And I think that's why Satan wants to destroy the Jewish people, honestly, because then like God's promises will be found to have been void, and he will not have followed through on anything he said he was going to do. And from Sinai all the way through to the last of the Old Testament prophets, and then obviously in the New Testament as well. And I tell people, like, if God can take the Jewish people and through some weird technicality, through some weird technicality, make them no longer really God's people as a group, he can do it to the Christians. You know what I mean? Like if he did it before, he can do it again. Like your promises rest on nothing if he can break them to some other group. So right, exactly. I think that's a really good point that you made. Our tagline on the podcast is Jesus is Jewish, and that changes everything. What do you think about that? How would you respond to that, or how would you add on to that, or what does that statement mean to you?
I love that statement because it's really what my page is all about and what I stand on as in faith as a Messianic Jew. I could easily think, wow, Messianic Jews aren't very popular, and I would like to be popular. So I should just give this up and go worship at my nearest church. I would probably have a lot more friends, if I'm being honest. And I would, I could get involved there and just get rid of this whole Jewish thing. But that's not how God has created me. And it's also not what the whole story of the best news in the world is about. Like Yeshua, he came, he died, he rose again, he died for my sins as a Jewish person, and he rose again, and he was Jewish through the line of David. And so what does that mean for me as a Jew? And what does that mean for Christian believers or Gentile believers, Christians? And once you realize that Jesus was Jewish, it does change your whole life, because as a Christian, you might have not learned this stuff. And so it gets you on this journey of, this is not an obligation for Gentiles to do Jewish things, but it would be nice to learn what Jesus did and maybe participate in things, and it just grows your spiritual walk so much. Like one of my favorite holidays is Passover, and I just love looking at the parallels between Yeshua as the sacrificed lamb. The parallels between Passover and the Exodus and Yeshua is like so cool. And I want Christians to be able to experience that. And it's crazy to me that some Christians don't know about this. So I feel the need to share this. And that's why it changes everything, is because you literally are learning what Jesus did and all the prophecies that were fulfilled, all these like little fun prophecies that it's not as, simplified as people like to think about it. Like, oh, Jesus came, so now get rid of it all. Like, you don't do any more traditions, like whatever. The Old Testament is obsolete. And no, it changes everything because he was Jewish. And so what does that mean?
Yeah. And even the people who think, well, he was born Jewish, they think like once he died and came back that he was cured or whatever. Like, no, he's still, he's Jewish now. Like he's Jewish right now. And when he shows up again, he's going to come back. He's still going to be Jewish.
Yeah. He's not going to be just Caucasian.
Yeah. We need to stop thinking about waspy Jesus. We need to stop expecting Jews to become waspy when they follow Jesus, and stop it with the waspy Jesus. We need that's the thing I like about The Chosen, is that he's like they're saying like Jewish things, and it's the most Jewish Jesus we've seen in media yet. Mm-hmm. Although we could push it further. We could have a more Jewish one, maybe 10, 20 years down the line. That could be part of the Messianic Jewish ecosystem. We could make films. Someone could make films.
That would be so fun.
Have a he'd be wearing tefillin all the time, because all of them wore tefillin all day back then. Anyway,
that would be so fun.
Anyway,
Messianic Jewish film.
Yeah. But we have aspiring filmmakers in the movement, so we'll see what happens. Last question. The last question on my list that I prepared is an incredibly self-serving question. What's your favorite First Fruits of Zion resource, and why?
Oh, I love this question, because we actually received our Siddur, the blue one. I forget what it's called, but the blue one. The family complete Shabbat Siddur.
The little Shabbat one. I was going to say, you guys got the full Siddur. That's not done yet.
No, it's the Shabbat one. Sorry.
The Shabbat one, like for mealtimes and stuff.
Yeah, so we have the brown one and we have the blue one. I forget who gave it to us as a gift. But we've had this before we had kids, and we used it for our Shabbat meal that we had at home. And my son, when he was born, we had Shabbat, my firstborn son, and he knocked over the grape juice, and it spilled all over the Siddur, or the Shabbat Siddur. So now there's a big grape juice stain in it. So it is like doubly my favorite, because it's a really good Siddur, Shabbat Siddur. And I also have this like fun memory that like there's this grape juice splatter and like the blessing over the candles. And I love that. So that is definitely my favorite. But I'm excited to like read more of the different resources that you guys have. I just saw that I got an email like 2 days ago that you have like Hey Torah Kids. Yeah, I want to be in on that. I need that. It's like stuff. So, and my kid
we have
years old now.
I feel like we have 3 years worth of stuff there for targeted right toward an age group that might be one that's relevant to your family. So definitely reach out to Hope will reach out to you, and she will load you up with whatever you need.
I would love that.
Cool. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the Messiah podcast audience before we close out our time here together?
I just want to say thank you, Jacob, for having me on, and thank you for everybody that connected me with your podcast. And I had so much fun talking to you and having a conversation, and I look forward to maybe more times.
Yeah. We had a good time too. Thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for joining us today on First Fruits of Zion's Messiah podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review along with a 5-star rating. If you want to learn more about the Jewish Jesus, create a free account at ffoz.org and start studying the scriptures from a Messianic Jewish perspective. We'll even give you a free book. Messiah Podcast is made possible by the generosity of our First Fruits of Zion friends. FFOZ friends are people like you who partner in our mission to reconcile disciples of Yeshua with God's prophetic promises to Israel. Tune in next time for more great conversations. Until then, I'm Jacob Franzak. Shalom.
Put your hand in mine together. We will walk in harmony. Let me introduce you to my teacher, the rabbi from the Galilee. Let his word cover you and me like the